Hello. Hello, hello. Oh my god, hi Pudding. Long hair. Yeah, I got lazy. I was lazy. Anyways. Oh, hi Ivy. Hello, hello. Welcome to a true crime stream. I'm not gonna lie, I had a website pulled up on my laptop and then proceeded to not send it to myself. So, we're on the FBI website instead. But I don't know how you only have one book. You gotta, well, the person who currently has the most books cheated the system, so it might have reset because I had to fix the system. Because someone decided that they wanted to just keep spamming get daily book, and then I had to quickly learn how to fix that. So it might have reset. Anyways, I have a bowl of popcorn, the FBI website in front of me, and a music playlist called "You're Studying in a Haunted Library with Ghosts." And I hope if that doesn't tell you the vibe for today, or if that didn't tell you the vibe for today, I'm sorry, you're not gonna catch the vibes. No, just kidding, you will catch the vibes. Anyways, I thought I'd do something new today because I don't know, sometimes gaming gets a little repetitive. Sometimes, I don't know, it gets a little repetitive. I wanted to do something new. Cats, good luck with the cats, have fun lurking. You can listen to my stories if I figure out how to correctly say them. But hello? But yeah, I want to do something new today. I wanted to kind of try out, I don't know, just a new type of stream. So I would normally put it on the like screen so you could read along, but I'm a little too lazy for that today, so I'm just gonna read it out. I also have tea because I feel recently every time I've streamed my voice is really hurt after, or like if I don't know, sometimes I'm talking for too long, and even if I'm talking for too long IRL, I end up with sore throat. So hopefully we can get into it. So let's switch up the music here. Oh, is it gonna work? Oh, ooh, spooky, scary. I gotta turn it on for me. Sometimes I have it up to the point where I genuinely can't think. So we're gonna fix that. Okay, spooky, scary music. Ooh, so my original thought was I ended up finding this thread on Reddit that had like a bunch of, it had a website that I could read like fully written out true crime on, which we got to be careful. True crime, I'm gonna stick with some older true crime in this because as much as I enjoy new true crime stuff, a lot of it isn't fully developed yet, and I don't want to report. For example, there's a man in, I believe, Washington who just recently kidnapped his daughters, and unfortunately they passed because of him. And so I wanted to originally kind of discuss that, but the issue is it's currently ongoing, and one, I don't want to leave you, well, some of these you might be left hanging because I know a lot of these are unsolved, but I'm looking up good website for true crime Reddit, hold on. But I didn't wanna, I think a really important thing for true crime that there's a few podcasts that are really good at it, there's a few YouTubers who are really good at it, but you gotta be very respectful. These are people, you know, they're people, their lives got turned upside down, so I'm gonna try to do specifically cases that are older. Stuff like the Black Dahlia type stuff. but we're gonna have to find a we're gonna have to find out the website first. Okay, wait. Is this it? No, that's not it. No. A lot of these are like actual they're like articles, so I can actually read them without what happened last week when I was playing Expedition 33, where I'm like sitting there and desperately trying to sum up. I'm gonna be honest, if I can't find it in the next few links, I think I'm gonna have to go get my laptop. The FBI vault. I don't want to look at the FBI vault. Hold on, hold on. I have a feeling we're getting close. No, we're not getting close. Okay, we'll read one FBI vault one, and then I will go find the website. But we'll start with the FBI. So we have a lot. But I want to start with this one because I think this is what I wanted to start with. I think, okay, so these are all going to be really long stories, just a heads up. So, and I'm known to be get off topic very quickly. So my goal is going to be 3 true crime stories, and then we'll see from there. However, I'm not sure. Hold on. There's like 3 that are like, oh, murder of an FBI agent. Oh, no, this is the one I want to do. Okay. So, let's start. It's such an awkward thing to say. Let's start. Okay. So, the first one we're going to start with is called Jonestown. And the summary is kind of, let me read the summary for you. I clicked out of it. Summary for Jonestown is the FBI investigates a murder of a congressman and a mass suicide in Jonestown, Guyana in the late 1970s. So I'm thinking cult vibes, but we'll have to see. Okay. California Congressman Leo Ryan was concerned. He'd been hearing that there was trouble in Jonestown, the makeshift settlement carved out of the jungle of Guyana by the charismatic Jim Jones and his cult-like following called the People's Temple. The allegations were serious. Jonestown sounded more like a slave camp than a religious center. There were talk of beatings, forced labor, and imprisonments, the use of drugs to control behavior, suspicious deaths, and even rehearsals for a mass suicide. In the fall of 1978, Ryan decided to visit Guyana to find out what was happening to the more than 900 members of Jonestown, many of whom were his constituents from the San Francisco area who'd followed the scandal-plagued Jones to South America. Ryan and his congressional delegation flew to Guyana on November 14, 1978. A few days later, they arrived in Jonestown along with various government officials and a group of reporters. There, Ryan met with Jones and interviewed many of his followers. Not surprisingly, some families and several individuals asked to leave with Ryan, while others apparently left on foot on their own. Jones was not happy. Ryan wanted the entire group to fly out together, fearing retribution to any left behind, but that required a second plane and delayed the departure. The group eventually assembled at a local airstrip on the afternoon of the 18th, but as Ryan's plane prepared to leave, a dump truck from Jonestown arrived with several armed men. They opened fire on one plane while a cultist named Larry Layton on board the other pulled out a gun and began shooting. It's definitely melee. Ryan and several others were killed and many wounded. Meanwhile, back at the compound, Jones was hatching an unthinkable plan. He called his followers together and essentially ordered them to swallow a fruit drink that was apparently laced with cyanide. He rationalized the attack on the planes would bring harm to the residents of Jonestown. A few apparently objected, but in the end, more than 900 cultists, including more than 200 children, were soon lying lifeless on the ground. Jones, too, was dead, with a gunshot wound to the head. The FBI soon launched an extensive investigation in concert with other agencies, with our jurisdiction based on a congressional assassination law passed 6 years earlier. Working with the authorities in Guyana, agents interviewed survivors of the mass murder/suicide, while fingerprint and forensic experts from our disaster squad identified many victims and Jones himself. Agents across the nation also searched out and talked with members of the People's Temple in the US for further insights. In the end, along with helping to unravel the chain of events and bring closure to grieving families, the FBI was able to make a case against Larry Layton. Layton, the only member of the People's Temple tried in the US for criminals acts at Jonestown, was ultimately extradited, convicted, and sentenced to life in prison. So there's like there's a lot of cult activities that I think have ended like this in my experience. That's such a funny thing to say. I feel like a lot of cults, as soon as they get found out, as soon as like there's the opportunity of, oh, we're gonna, people are gonna make it out, they end up just doing something like this, where they do like a murder suicide type thing. I think there was one, so Jonestown is a big one, but I believe that there was one in California. I need to look. There's a few of them. I'm not sure. Jonestown is by far what seems to be the biggest. I believe I've seen a I think there must be some sort of movie on Jonestown, I think, because I've heard of it before multiple times. But it's very interesting that cults are very interesting, because it's interesting that people will slowly lose their kind of like a bodily autonomy almost, because a lot of them, at least from what I've heard, is it starts off kind of okay, you get invited to a commune, you're like, yeah, like let me go live with this strange guy who I have no idea who he is. But a lot of them start off where it's just like, some really charismatic guy. There was one that I was it was about a cult in Canada, and it was like that, where the guy was just very charismatic. So it starts off, the leader of the cult is maybe just very charismatic. He's got some weird ideas, but you're like, oh, okay, like, maybe I'll go along with him. And then, months later, stuff like this happens, where you're like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have gone along with him. And it's very interesting. But it's almost like they make it so that it's rationalized, like it's rationalized to the man. Makes sense. They make it make sense in the world of the cult. So I don't know, it's very interesting. I'm very intrigued by it. We'll have to do more research on cults. Cults are very interesting. Overall, it's so, ugh. Oh, the other big one is Heaven's Gate. So it was Marshall Applewhite. And I think this is the one. Yeah, this is the one in California where him and all of his settlers settled this ranch outside of San Diego, and for some reason aliens were brought into this. I'm not quite sure what the aliens were doing, but they thought the aliens would take them to the next level of life. And then the group committed mass suicide by taking phenobarbital with vodka and applesauce. Oh. And apparently they found them all kind of like looked the exact same. They said that they found them like ready for a trip, and I believe I heard some sort of interview, or maybe it was just like a discussion with one of the survivors, and they were talking like survivors isn't like somebody that left before this happened, and they were like, yeah, or maybe it was one of the policemen. I think it was multiple people. So they had talked with a survivor. It was one of those, a lot of like these true crime documentaries. They'll discuss with like so many people at once, and you have like ADHD because you're trying to follow one storyline and you follow another storyline. But one of them, they were talking to one of the police officers that came in, and he was just like, oh, it was crazy, like they looked like they were all ready for a trip. And I think he was like, it was like very eerie. And then I can't remember if what happened with Marshall Applewhite. Maybe we'll look him up. Gotta learn to avoid all the mistakes when I start my own. Exactly, that's why we're starting this series, is I'm gonna start calling this series How to Get Away with Murder, but then I feel like I'm gonna get trademarked if I say that, I think. So unfortunately we won't be saying that, but and I'm kidding, but I could start a cult. I think if I started a cult, we would never do some sort of event like this. The cult would just, I mean, okay, I'm one for living on a commune. I don't see any issues with living on a commune per se, but that's like if you're like a normal person living on a commune, not like these people who like go to some remote. Also, safety. If some random man is like, hey, come with me to my remote secluded ranch, baby girl. I tried to wink. Wait, hold on. Oh no. You come with me to my remote secluded ranch, baby girl. I really can't wink. Okay. Then it's like no, I'm not. Like, why would you willingly go to this man's? I mean, I get they're charismatic, but I think what really gets me is like, you kind of knew what you. I mean, not the kids. The kids did not know what they were walking into. Those poor kids. But like, and imagine being there and he's passing out. Like, oh, you got to drink this quickly. Was no one suspicious? Was nobody like, oh yeah, sorry. I mean, this one, the Heaven's Gate. I mean, they all knew that they were gonna die. They saw dying as like ascending, you know. But like, I don't know. I just don't get it. Anyways, I'm curious. I remember I thought he died differently. This says like Nettles. Oh, this is Nettles' death, not his death. Hold on. Okay, so he was one of the last 4 people to die, and he had assistants help him die, and then the assistants died, which is really interesting. I'm not sure. That's very interesting. But apparently he just like went off the deep end after his lover? Wife? Went So, very interesting. I'm not sure how to feel about that, actually. Oh, I think I found the website. Okay. So, we have one about JFK. We have one titled The Day the Music Died. Also, I'm fearing that these might not be as truthful as they could be because apparently it's almost like a Reddit type. Oh, this one's just really sad. No. Oh wait, no, never mind. There's one about this man that they thought pushed his wife down the stairs, I think. You know what we're gonna read? I've decided. No, I want like a whole... Somebody's gotta... Oh, nobody's posted about this. CNN did. Is the CNN article long, perhaps? So basically, there is a case that happened in 1982, and it's the reason why all of our medication has a fun little like lid on it and like plastic surrounding it. And it was called the Tylenol murders. Oh, we have an ad starting. We're gonna have to take a break because I'm telling stories. But it was called the Tylenol murders, and I won't go into too big of a detail because I'm trying to get this CNN page to load. Okay. Okay. I guess I'm just gonna read this CNN article. Yeah, okay. It's almost unimaginable today. A police car slowly moving down your street, its loudspeaker blaring. Do not take Okay, wait. Set the scene. Set the scene. A police car slowly moving down your street, its loudspeaker blaring. Do not take Tylenol until further notice. But that was indeed the scene in Chicago suburbs in the fall of 1982. These events that led to these warnings sent chills down the spines of millions of Americans. A string of unsolved murders is the subject of a CNN original series that I'm not doing free promo for CNN. The scare began when Mary Kellerman, a 12-year-old girl from Elk Grove Village, Illinois, told her parents she was feeling sick on the morning of September 29, 1982. She wanted to stay home from school, and after taking one Tylenol capsule, Mary collapsed on the bathroom floor. She died shortly after. The same day, Kellerman took that Tylenol less than 10 miles away in Arlington Heights, Illinois. 27-year-old postal worker Adam Janis took 2 capsules of Tylenol. He later died at a nearby hospital. Adam's family was in shock. When they gathered that afternoon, Adam's brother Stanley Janis and Stanley's wife Teresa also took Tylenol capsules from the same bottle. Both dropped to the floor and were later pronounced dead. Over the next few days, 3 more people in the Chicago suburbs would die after taking Tylenol. 31-year-old Mary McFarland, 35-year-old Paula Prince, 25-year-old Mary Lynn Reiner, who had just delivered her 4th child. 7 people, all from the same general suburban area of Chicago, had died. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of people. Officials later found that the Tylenol powder was replaced with potassium cyanide, and a nationwide recall of Tylenol extra strength 500 milligrams was underway. Johnson & Johnson recalled at least 31 million bottles. That's a lot of bottles. That's a lot of bottles. That's like, have you ever heard when they like recall like lettuce and and they're like we gotta recall the lettuce, and you're like I don't know. Recalls are really interesting. Recalls are scary, and the reason why they're scary is because like you never fully know if you ate something that was affected or not, because a lot of the times they'll just recall like anything that they think might have been affected. They're not 100% sure. And like there have been a few times that like you won't even find out about recalls until way after like the things happen. So I'm wondering how good that like I guess the system was in at this point in time so that they could recall all that. I mean, I guess if you like look on the news, you would find and you see like 7 people dead from Tylenol. Like I wouldn't be taking Tylenol either. I don't think. I think I'd be like, you know what? I'm moving on to Advil. Like, I don't know. It's just I would not be taking Tylenol at all. I don't think. Tylenol's scary at that point. This is gonna turn into like scary Reddit stories. I wonder if anybody on Reddit has oh wait, there is r/2crime. I just found a sad one. Whoa, some of these are really crazy. Wait, this might be a good one. No, I can't do this one because it's too close to where I used to live, and that would scare me. Ooh. We have another good one, but overall, I believe that they never found the Tylenol murderer. Actually, that's something we should look up. Because I don't believe... Oh my gosh. That music... The music had like a door creaking and I literally just shit my pants. I thought my own door was creaking. I was really scared. Okay. I literally turned around and I don't have a door behind me. I just want you all to know that. There is no door behind me and I fully turned around. It's really getting to me. Okay, so they did find a suspect, but he never was charged. Apparently, he sent a letter to Johnson & Johnson saying $1 million or I keep killing people, essentially. And it's like, okay, at that point, dog, you're probably guilty, you know? You're probably guilty. If you're... Listen, a lot of... Okay. So, like, it was in 1982, right? They didn't have the greatest technology, you know? I mean, I'm gonna be honest, I'm 99% sure they probably could have figured out who did it, but whatever. What really gets me is, like, there's a lot of cases where, like, the perpetrator will send letters or send something to, like, anyone associated with the case, and then everybody just kind of like bat, like they don't even bat an eye. They're like, oh yeah, like the Zodiac killer, like they're like, oh yeah, like, you know, like we just got sent letters, we're not sure. Like, what do you mean you never, like, whatever. I think a lot of murders are just really grossly mishandled a lot of times. Okay, so I found one on Reddit on r/true crime. I guess this can just be r/true crime readings now. So this one is called The Italian Biologist Suitcase Murder in Colombia 2024. In April 2024, a molecular biologist from Italy, Alessandro Coatti, I'm not sure. Well, he's probably a murderer, so. Oh wait, no, he's not a murderer. Oh, rest in peace. Was found dismembered in a suitcase in Santa Marta, Colombia. They're like, this ain't your typical true crime story. It's got drugs, gangs, and dating app. Like, okay, like we don't need all that, sir. So, Alessandro Coatti, a 42-year-old scientist who worked in London for the Royal Society of Biology, was traveling in South America after quitting his job to volunteer in Ecuador. He lands in Santa Marta, a touristy beach town on Colombia's Caribbean coast. On April 3rd, 2024, 2 days later, he's reported missing. Then, on April 6th, kids playing near a stream find a black suitcase with his head, arms, and feet inside, identified by a hotel wristband. Other parts of his body, like his torso, were found in a trash bag floating in the Manzanares River miles away. Colombian police confirm it's a homicide, and the mayor's offering a $12,000 reward for info on the killers, but no arrests yet. So, something interesting is, like, I feel like recently there's been a lot of murders like this where it's been like they found a lot of bodies in suitcases recently. Like, on TikTok in 2020. We gotta look that one up. I don't know if anybody remembers, but like they fully found like some kids on the beach found a dead body in a suitcase in California, I think. That was crazy. But yeah, here's where it gets crazy. Cops think Coatti was lured to his death by a Grindr, the dating app. According to La Voz de New York, they believe a gang used a fake profile to trick him into a meetup, drugged him with scopolamine, aka devil's breath, a scary drug that knocks you out, robbed him, then killed him and chopped him up. The dismemberment was super methodical, but the killers knew what they were doing. The Guardian said that this might have been a mistake. Coatti could have been caught in a gang feud and maybe targeted as the wrong guy in a drug cartel hit. No evidence he was into anything shady, just a scientist studying animals in the area. So it's really interesting because I feel like a lot of times they try to give like excuses of like, especially there was a case where 2 girls went missing and they've still never found them. They found bones that they think are theirs. I can't remember if they were confirmed to be theirs, but they were also, a lot of people were like, oh, you know, like they just got caught up in a gang when they shouldn't have been, which is a crazy excuse for like this type of stuff, because, you know, like, this might be controversial, but murder is not okay. it might be controversial, but I don't, it's just kind of, it's wild. I'm not sure, like, especially when they're like, oh, you know, caught up with the wrong people, like, shouldn't have been caught in the middle of this at all. Like, oh my gosh, it's crazy. Okay. Santa Marta is a hotspot for tourists, but it's got a dark side. AP News said the city had 194 murders in 2024, and a local activist, Norma Vera Salazar, told the Daily Mail there's been 13 similar dismemberment cases in the region that year, like bodies stuffed in bags or suitcases, left on roads to scare people. Sounds like cartel tactics to me. Some reports, like The Independent, say police are looking into whatever this ties to organ they think it's tying to organ trafficking, but that is unconfirmed and speculative. Still, Kawadi's family is freaking out, thinking he might have been the target for his organs, which is next level creepy. What bugs me is how little we know. Kawadi was seen leaving his hotel for a night out. A hotel worker told El Tiempo he was asking about visiting Minca, a nearby village, for research. Nobody knows who he met or what happened next. Italian investigators are now in Colombia working with local cops, but the trail is cold. The grinder angle makes it tough. Fake profiles are hard to trace, and Scopomalin leaves no memory. Plus, Colombia's got a history of cartel violence, so is this just another a hit or something more personal? So the interesting thing is, I feel like, especially in South America, we have so many cases when we talk about like the cartel where local police just kind of give up. And I think it's just because the cartel is, I know in like places like Brazil, the cartel has kind of just become like a level of a police force on their own. I know like certain like neighborhoods in Brazil are like policed by their version of the cartel. So like it's interesting to see that they can kind of get away with whatever they want. I mean, they're kind of just they're in charge of everything. It's really interesting. It's kind of like, it's sad in cases like this when they're taking advantage. I mean, especially if they're taking advantage of just random people. Like it's very sad, but like, I don't know, it's interesting. My theory, this feels like a planned job. The dismemberment, the suitcase, the river dump, it's way too clean for a random crime. Maybe Kawadi saw something he shouldn't have while researching in the jungle, or maybe the grinder thing was a setup to rob a quote-unquote rich tourist. But why cut him up like that? And why no arrest with a $12,000 reward on the table? Makes me wonder if somebody's protecting the killers, like corrupt cops or big cartel. I don't know, it's fishy. So, I think honestly what probably happened is it's something where the cartel was involved. I'm not sure if it was planned or not. I don't know how I feel about that, but I know a lot of times it's just, oh, it happened this year, 2025, and it seems the killers have been identified. We gotta look. Colombian authorities have arrested 4 people, including a woman, in connection with the killing of Italian biologist Alessandro Coatti, whose dismembered body was found earlier this year in Santa Marta. Police say that the suspects lured him into a fake meeting arranged through a dating app with the intent to rob him, a plan that ended in murder. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. The arrest, announced Sunday, followed months of forensic analysis and digital tracking. Investigators say Coatti, 38, was led to an abandoned home in the San Jose del Pando neighborhood under the pretense of a trip to the Sierra Nevada mountains. The encounter had been set up via Grindr. According to police, Coatti was drugged, robbed, and ultimately killed inside the house. What remains unclear is whether the homicide was planned from the outset or if the situation escalated unexpectedly. The motive does not appear to be tied to drug cartels or paramilitary groups, but rather a robbery scheme gone wrong. Digital evidence was central to the investigation. Data extracted from Coatti's phone and laptop, including chat logs and cloud backdrops, helped retrace his final hours and led them to the individuals now in custody. Interesting. That's very interesting. So it wasn't the cartel. That's kind of what I thought it was going to be, because a lot of people, but that's also, it's an interesting take to see that it was just some sort of robbery gone wrong, because that almost makes it seem like some of these unsolved cases could be that. Also, it's very dark and I need to turn on some lights because it's starting to freak me out. Normally it doesn't freak me out like this. Hold on. The lights are on now. Normally I'm not alone, but today I'm alone and I don't know why I continued to go through with this stream. Because it does freak me out a little bit, especially like the more recent ones freak me out. Okay. This one's unsolved. So I'm very interested in it. Deanna Vicari went to her community college drama class the night of October 22nd, 1992. After the class went out, she was spotted at a local bar, then around midnight at the Tucson Convention Center. That's a that's a very odd place to be at midnight, a convention center. On Friday, October 23rd, she did not show up to work. On the evening of October 24th, her severed arms were found in a downtown dumpster wrapped in trash bags. Oh, it's that damn convention center. Her car, which was locked with the alarm set, was found in the same neighborhood street as the house owned by the mother of her drama teacher's fiance. The mother of her drama teacher's okay. I got there. The rest of Diana's remains were never found. In 1999, Lemuel Prion was convicted and sentenced to death row. In 2003, his conviction was thrown out. Prion died in Utah in August of 2023. Prion was exonerated due to several reasons. Oh, so they thought he was related to Casey's not. His DNA did not match what was found at the crime scene. Only one witness could connect Prion and Diana together the night of her death. A local DJ who worked at the bar Diana was spotted at on the evening of October 22nd. This DJ came forward 3 years later when he saw Prion's name and face was published in a local newspaper. This DJ's co-worker's testimony, the DJ's co-worker testimony contradicted what the DJ said in court. The defense also provided an alternative suspect who Diana allegedly was looking for the night she disappeared. This man, John Mazur, had a history of alleged violence against 2 female co-workers. He allegedly bit one on the nose during a fight and attempted to another co-worker outside of work. What? Well, I'm curious, like, how do you attempt to bite somebody's nose? That's like, you gotta like chomp, you gotta like, ow. You gotta like really go after it, you know? That's actually crazy. Okay. Mazur was never charged. His car was searched by police for the presence of blood early on in the investigation. Diana's sister Debbie claimed in a post on her YouTube channel years ago that their mother was looking for Diana at the 32-year-old drama teacher's house. They claimed that Diana was engaged with an affair with him. Years later, Debbie met the drama teacher at a karaoke event and claimed the drama teacher told her he was cleared with a polygraph test. Another suspect was a convicted child molester who was arrested in June of 1993 and later sentenced to life in prison for abusing his girlfriend's 8-month-old son. The baby had multiple broken limbs, I don't even think I can say that, but basically just a lot of child abuse. Hatton's alleged connection to Diana was he worked at the gas station across the street from the EG's location where Diana and John Mazur were employed, and was a friend of Diana and her sisters. Hatton was also an alleged drug dealer who used both cocaine and meth. Sick! He remains in prison to this day. Diana's parents, both brother and so everybody in Diana's family has passed away since the murder, and there's no active page for her murder on Tucson's crime program, and it's unknown if it's being actively investigated. The last media coverage of the case was in 2014. Thank you for the follow. Gaming, not sure gaming. more like lots of true crime talking. So I'm reading somebody in the comments of this one. They said that they're actually really close friends with the guy that's the local DJ in this case, and we're like, hey, like he actually didn't come out evil gaming, I guess you could call it evil gaming versus evil gaming. I guess they're saying that, yeah, interesting. So they're saying that the friend of the DJ was like, yeah, he actually is really upset about this, and that the way that you said this is not true. Interesting. Oh, and he didn't change his testimony. Oh. So this is 6 days ago. Apparently the DJ posted on Facebook about the case. They found remains in the town, and he was like hoping that they were theirs so that they, you know, had the rest of her to lay to rest. Very interesting. That one's just sad. It's very like, a lot of the unsolved ones are very sad, but it's interesting to see like how much the internet has been able to solve like really old cases, like maybe not this one, but sometimes the internet ends up solving some of these really, really old cases, which is really cool. Like the cold cases, you know, like somebody will come forward and be like, actually, I know something about that. You know, my great grandfather on his deathbed said that, you know, XYZ. So it's very interesting. Some of these are just like talking about like, you know, why are some of the cops in these cases just like the most incompetent people you've ever seen, which is true. I think we'll read this one. Oh, that's an and I did not mean to hit that one. Okay. The tragic murder. I can't speak today. This keeps happening. Whenever I have to like read stories or read Reddit, I keep going, blah. Well, if they had more competent, I agree. I was like, so one of the ones I was listening to about cold case, it was a cold case originally. So like the very basic synopsis of it was, this woman was scrolling on a like cemetery page, and she found an unnamed grave, but it was called like female white bones or whatever, or white female bones, and so she was really, you know, upset with the fact that like nobody knew who it was, like nobody knew who it was, and she ended up getting like super crazy access to like all the photos from this case and everything, because she was able to trace like oh, we found these remains, and she like went to the internet, and a bunch of people were like looking to try to see who this could be, because nobody could figure it out who it could be, and they got this guy involved who apparently is known for like recreating faces from skulls, and so he was able to recreate a face from a skull, and all in all they ended up finding who the woman was. They weren't able to solve the murder, but they ended up finding out who the woman was, and it was really sad because it was a clerical error. Like the reason why those remains, like the family never, I mean, the brother got to lay her to rest, but the mother wasn't there. The mother had passed. The reason why they finally figured out who it was because this guy had put a bunch of effort into like facially reconstructing her, and they found a girl that looked the same in one of the databases, the missing people. I think it's like the National Missing People database, but it turned out the remains had never been put in the database, so they didn't know that like this girl had been not, and she was not that far from her hometown, which was really sad that they just never, like, it was a clerical error. It literally just someone not just being incompetent, not doing their job correctly, which is really sad. Like, I mean, it wouldn't have saved this person's life, and I have seen some cases of like especially the ones in Japan where they have like stalkers, and like their lives could have literally been saved if the police did absolutely anything about it. Or even in the US, we have a few cases like that. But it's just like, this one was just really sad because it was like, you know, like the family never got to figure out what happened to her. Like they just thought she disappeared. Like some of them thought she could still be alive, just like living, doing whatever she wanted. So it's really interesting. It's really sad. But it's also really interesting how, like, you know, if you're not doing your job correctly, you could absolutely, like, just ruin someone. Okay. So, this one is a teenage girl. Not a teenage girl. Might be about a teenage girl. We'll see. They don't really put a synopsis, so... 17-year-old Katrina I'm just gonna call her Katrina. Had everything a teenage girl could wish for. She was blessed with both beauty and money. Katrina lived in a wealthy Los Angeles neighborhood with her mother, Angelique Bernstein, and her younger half-sister, 15-year-old Sabrina Bernstein. By all accounts, Angelique spoiled her daughters rotten and overindulged them with all the luxuries money could buy. Growing up, Katrina was a fairly normal child. But by 8th grade, things started to take a turn for the worse. She became increasingly angry, started missing class, and having confrontational episodes with other students. She also began abusing drugs and alcohol. Shortly after withdrawing from Harvard Westlake, the most prestigious school in the city, Katrina was sent to a therapeutic residential facility in Utah, where she was involved in more altercations with girls and attempted to run away. Her mother decided to bring her back home for good, despite the school's recommendations of having her stay for 9 months to a year. After a therapist recommended that Katrina attend Alcoholics Anonymous meetings, her mother responded that she would not allow her daughter to associate with lowlife. See, I can already tell. I have a feeling I know where this is going because of the way that the mother is acting. A lot of times we also see these cases where, like, the parents almost like egg on the kids, and it's really like, I mean, I know it's your kid, and I know obviously you care about your kid, but like you know, like, how could you like, it's sad, it hurts, because it's just like, you didn't need to do all that, you know, you didn't, like, just reprimand your kid. Is kind of where I'm at with some of these, but okay. Eventually, Katrina dropped out of high school at the age of 16. While being homeschooled by Angelique, she would sleep all day and party all night. She's put on antidepressants for a sleep disorder when in all likelihood she just wanted to go out to clubs and parties every night. She also had recently begun sneaking out of the house and engaging in indiscriminate sexual activity. Katrina had also assaulted her own mother on multiple occasions in the family home. It seemed that Katrina was a textbook case of a child who needed parental guidance, but was instead allowed to do whatever she wanted. On the other side of town, 15-year-old Deanna Moran, I'm gonna call her Deanna. I'm gonna hope it's Deanna. I don't think it's Diana, it's spelled with an E, but we'll see. She was a student at Santa Monica High, where she excelled academically and had many friends. Deanna was extraordinarily gifted at writing. She was also a great athlete and played on the school's volleyball, track, and water polo teams. Diana came from a loving family. Both of her parents were hardworking immigrants. Her friends called her Daring Deanna because she was known to always stand up for what's right, which sadly may have been her downfall. Uh-oh. On November 17, 2001, high schoolers from all over town arrived at a party in Westwood. No parents were home. Approximately 40 high school-aged kids flooded the house and yards, drinking alcohol and smoking dope with no adult supervision. What could possibly go wrong? Deanna hopped off a bus with a couple of her male friends. Sabrina was also arrived at the party with her friends. Deanna soon noticed Sabrina chasing a boy throughout the yard and breaking potted plants. This didn't sit well with Deanna. She confronted Sabrina about it and told her to chill out and stop breaking stuff. The two girls got into a brief shoving match, leaving Sabrina on the ground and in tears. Humiliated, Sabrina went to the corner of the yard and called her big sis Katrina. As the party began breaking up, Deanna and others waited in front of the house for their ride. Suddenly, a white car pulled up and out marched Katrina. Who pushed her? My sister, she shouted. Deanna bravely raised her hand and said it was me. The confrontation remained verbal for several minutes until onlookers began chanting for the two girls to fight. See, that's where I think the issue is. Humiliated, no. Katrina quickly punched Deanna in the chest, and the sisters ran back to Katrina's car and drove off. Deanna stumbled and leaned against a tree, staring off into space and gasping for air. Once the terrified teen witnesses realized Deanna was bleeding, they didn't call 911. Instead, they panicked and drove her to Santa Monica Hospital, where she was pronounced dead. None of the witnesses ever saw a knife during the confrontation. How is this possible? Authorities later determined Katrina had stabbed Deanna through the heart with a T-shaped punch knife, a knife that's purpose is to be concealed in someone's hand. Whoa, that's a lot of words that were hard to read. The next day around 2 p.m., Katrina and Sabrina were picked up from their home by two detectives from the LAPD. During their interrogation, Katrina's speech began to slur and she told the detective she felt sleepy. It didn't take long before Katrina suddenly collapsed and stopped breathing. Little did the detectives know that Katrina wasn't just evading their questions, she was committing suicide. One can only imagine the young girl sitting in the room, feeling so tormented by what occurred at the party on her mind, she decided to down an entire bottle of pills. Consumed with guilt, she'd taken 43 of her prescribed antidepressant pills that morning. It's very sad. Oh, somebody dropped Sabrina's Instagram. Hold on. I kind of actually want to... I'm actually glad you guys can't see this because I'm gonna look up this girl's Instagram. Animal rights activist? Oh my god. What? That's crazy. She's an animal rights activist. Girl, your sister killed someone. What? That's crazy. Whoa. Whoa. That's kind of wild. All right, well, that was an interesting one. Some of these are crazy. I'm like sifting through them, trying to find like a good one. But like, Maryland? Triple homicide. Whoa. Okay, so this is a Reddit thread asking what cases were evidence destroyed or wasn't released to the public, and why do you think this was the case? So we have a write-up. Hydrogeologist. That is a very fancy word. Daniel Robinson went missing back in June of 2021. In July of 2021, his vehicle was found in a ravine along with his belongings, including his cell phone, which a detective cloned before giving it back to Daniel's father, David. The police say Daniel was having mental health problems and walked off into the desert. Daniel's father and the PI believe the Jeep was planted in that ravine at a later date and foul play was involved. A big part of the story had to do with the 11-mile discrepancy on Daniel's vehicle. His odometer had recorded 11 miles after 12:54 p.m. that were not recorded in the infotainment system of his vehicle. The PI hired to look at the case said the vehicle drove 11 miles after crashing for the first time. The police said the 11 miles were an anomaly and had nothing to do with what happened. For a long time, it made no sense for the police to ignore Daniel's vehicle had driven 11 miles after 12:54 p.m. They could have just assumed Daniel crashed his own car once and then crashed it in the ravine, but they were ignoring it entirely for some unknown reason. 1 year later, David found an app called Mile IQ on Daniel's phone. It showed the movements Daniel's phone took the morning he went missing. David gave this to the police who took credit for it and said they were the ones that initially found it. The data showed Daniel's vehicle around the ravine at 10:30 a.m. and not driving any miles after getting into the ravine, which means any driving logs from Daniel's vehicle after that time would have to be it moving away from the ravine, proving it was planted back there at a later date. The 11 miles on the odometer are after Daniel's vehicle starts by the ravine at 12:54 p.m. The only reason the miles weren't recorded on the infotainment is because it hadn't been turned on since then to log the miles it just drove. After public pressure, police were forced to release a new police report in June of 2023 that included the Mile IQ data, but they still refused to acknowledge the 11 miles driven because it proves foul play. Apparently, Daniel was a hydrogeologist who was testing well sites in Buckeye, Arizona, and testing them in June of 2021. At the same time, the Buckeye water model was being finalized. The water model then hidden from the public for 2 years until a new governor forced a release of it, showing that there wasn't enough water to support developments being built in the area. So, very interesting. So they still haven't found him. It's very interesting to see how stuff like that, like the water, like industry, I guess you could say, could end up with somebody killed. Somebody made a joke, there are 11 missing upvotes that just don't add up. So the other thing they're thinking is that the father knows what happened but isn't saying anything because of like fear for himself, which is also fully possible. That's a sad one. It just highlights like the dark side This one's title is crazy. This one's gonna be crazy. Whoa. Okay, I'm ready for this one. You guys aren't ready for this one. I'm not gonna read the title because it ruins it. On April 27, 2010, a group of construction workers in Shanghua village, probably not pronouncing that right, located in China's... I can't pronounce that. I'm really sorry. I wish I could, but I can't. And I am very fearful that pronouncing it wrong is just wrong. So, we're on their break and at the canteen for lunch. The group of workers got very angry due to the long wait for their food, and they went to confront the cook. He was nowhere to be found. The cook was 65-year-old Liu, and as he was the eldest of his family, some took to call him Liu Boss. So true. One of the workers went to Liu's home and found the door ajar. He shouted at him several times, but nobody answered, so he entered Liu's home and looked around. Although the lights were still turned on, nobody was home, so he left empty-handed. Most of the workers were not terribly concerned for Liu's safety, but instead upset that they had to go hungry. 20 years prior, Liu had been divorced and living alone ever since. While most didn't seem to care too much for Liu's disappearance, there were a select few who found it odd. Liu, for a long time, had been unemployed, and not many employers in the village were willing to hire him at his age. When he finally was hired to be a cook for the construction workers, it was a very recent hire, in fact. His first day on the job was April 24th, so it seemed odd that he would abandon his first real job in a long time so quickly. Eventually, someone asked his family about him and his brother, 46-year-old Liu was the first to hear about his disappearance. Liu started looking for Liu in areas where he was known to spend his spare time. After spending his whole afternoon trying to look for Liu and coming back empty-handed, he went to the police station to file a report. The police, for their part, didn't have much enthusiasm for the case and barely even looked for Liu, while Liu remained home and waited for any news. On April 29th, some of the other villagers needed to meet with Liu for something. They went to his home, and just like with his brother before him, the door was open, the lights were turned on, and no one was home. The villagers briefly searched for him, but when they couldn't find him, they decided to call his cell phone. The cell phone was turned off, which was unusual and out of character for Liu. After failing to find any trace of him, his family reported him missing to the police. The police were completely blindsided and shocked when his family walked in to report him missing, because by all appearances, it seemed the police themselves were the last to see Liu alive when he went to report his brother missing to them. Interesting. Initially, Liu's disappearance could have been dismissed as him running away to try and find better work outside his rural village. But his brother going missing only 2 days later was far more suspicious and finally motivated police to conduct a proper investigation into the two cases. The local police called for assistance from neighboring villages so they could borrow officers to form a task force dedicated solely to investigating this case. On May 7th, that task force was formed. As mentioned above, Liu had been living alone for 20 years and rarely had any contact with those outside of his family. Liu was a different story. He was much more involved in the community as a farmer and working for a few other odd jobs and side businesses, earning him many friends in the village. Since Liu had more of a social life and owned a cell phone, which he frequently used, Liu was again mostly the secondary focus, since police believed there would be a higher chance of tracking down Liu and that the two cases were likely connected anyways. The police obtained Liu's cell phone records and bills, which showed him calling many people until the day of his disappearance when the calls suddenly stopped. Based on this, the police believed that Liu likely didn't intend to be away for long, and that whatever caused his disappearance happened suddenly. After going through his phone records, the police took particular interest in one particular number in his contacts. The number Liu had called twice, and those calls were made on April 29th, the day he went missing. The call was traced to a 40-year-old Su Hong, the local doctor and the owner of the operator's village medical clinic. Despite being married, Hong's marriage was not a happy one, so 9 years prior she moved back into her old, now deceased parents' home and had been living there alone, except for the weekdays where she lived with her 4 children, 3 of them adopted. That's a very interesting thing to throw into the case. I'm confused as to why they got thrown in, but okay. The police went in to question her at her home. Hong told the police that she once borrowed 5,000 yuan from Liu in 2009 and another 10,000 from Lao Liu in order to fund treatment for her children who had fallen ill in 2009. But according to Hong, she had already paid the brothers back. Upon questioning the other villagers, they confirmed that Hong did indeed borrow money from all of them, but all attested to Hong's good character. When Hong was asked to explain the calls, she said she called him in order to ask him to come over so she could return the money, and after he left, she never saw him again. Police conducted a search effort next, attempting to find any bodies or something that would be out of place in such a small village, such as strangers or vehicles not belonging to anyone. Both these efforts came up empty-handed. The next 3 days of the investigation were largely fruitless until a new lead suddenly came to police. On May 10th, Lao Liu's sister was sent a text message from her brother. The message reads as follows. Let me be honest with you, I accidentally killed Big Brother. I said I was going to Shandong to find his son, and he got anxious, not letting us approach his son. Why is he like this? At that time, I had been drinking and got into it with him. He got up, so I pushed him, probably too hard. He didn't stand steady and hit his head on the doorframe. When I checked, he had no pulse. I was scared, so I took care of Big Brother by moving the motorcycle. I was afraid of getting caught, so I left. It's a very long text to send as explanation, but... Okay. The police had then raided both of the brothers' respective homes for evidence, putting much emphasis on the search of Lao Liu's property. Since the text message stated that Lao Liu pushed Liu and he hit his head against the door frame, this is where the police and forensics concentrated their search. The police saw no signs of a struggle, and Liu's fingerprints couldn't be found, and luminal tests revealed no blood on the door frame. A search of the home itself also led to police finding 3,000 won just laying around, which would have made no sense if Liu was fleeing and going on the run. It's very true. I'm not sure why it would be there. By all accounts, it would appear that Lao Liu didn't send that text and that this story was likely made up. Upon further examination of the text message, this seemed even more likely. Lao Liu was not properly educated, made many typos, and didn't know how to use punctuation marks. A stark contrast to this perfectly written message with proper use of punctuation marks. After both the police and his family caught on to this, they decided to call his number, only for no one to answer the phone, as the phone was yet again turned off. The police further checked the phone and it made no calls, with its only use between April 30th and May 10th being to send that text message. Throughout the week, the phone would be turned back on and send the same text message 10 times to various different people, mostly his family members. The message did not add any real new insight. It simply said, I killed Big Brother. I feel awful. I can never come back again. I did it to myself. It's unrelated to anyone else. I'm leaving. Take care of yourselves. Very interesting. Since these exonerating texts, including one in which Lao Liu admitted to acting alone, came out not too long after the police investigated Hong as their first suspect, the oddly convenient timing led them to once again investigate her. They were even more suspicious after one of Lao Liu's older brothers told the police that he had drunkenly told them, if I die, it will be Su Hong who kills me. Oh, that's crazy. On May 19th, the police returned to Hong's home to question her further. Hong had answered the police questions calmly and matter-of-factly when the police asked if she owned a cellar. However, Hong reacted a bit more panic and denied owning a cellar. The police were skeptical of this, and since in the city, almost every household owned a cellar to store food and vegetables over the winter, as it's one of China's northmost provinces. So when the police began searching Hong's yard, sure enough, they found a cellar entrance hidden within a pile of weeds. We all know where this is going. As soon as the police opened the entrance, they were instantly hit by a foul stench which made them know they were in the right place. The cellar had clearly been disused for a long time, while inside the police, without even entering, could see many plastic bags, clothing, and human feces. Once Hong saw what they were doing, she became even more panicked and hastily ran over, attempting to block the police from investigating the cellar. The police mostly ignored her attempts and picked up a nearby rake from the ground Whoa. To dig and poke away at the cellar from the outside. In doing so, they found 2 blue and green sheets that appeared to be brand new. The stench, as well as the rotten feces, meant that the police, when descending down in the cellar, had to wear gas masks. Ugh. As police suspected, those 2 sheets indeed held corpses inside, which the police brought to the surface. And then there's pictures of it, because this was all filmed, apparently. The police opened the two sheets, and while they had been heavily decomposed, they were still able to recognize them as Liu and Lao Liu. Hong was swiftly arrested, and the news quickly spread to everyone in the village, who were in disbelief that Hong was the culprit, while many straight up refusing to believe it. According to the initial forensic examination, the two brothers had died of strangulation. After being interrogated, Hong confessed to the murders. I think you would have to at that point, if they find them in your yard. Since she had recently borrowed money from Liu and later Lao Liu, the two often used paying off her debt as an excuse to visit her at her home and even clinic. And tragically, they also used this opportunity to sexually assault Hong and have her perform favors in lieu of paying off her debt. Yeah, I think I can understand her motives. As one may expect, Hong was miserable and saddened by this treatment and desperately sought a way out. She told the police that life was worse day by day. On April 22nd, Liu had apparently, according to some reports, fallen in love with a woman outside the village and was going to marry her. So in preparation, Liu decided to stop sexually assaulting and Hong under the condition that she pay her entire debt with interest. You've been making her pay the debt. What? On April 26, she invited Liu over to her home so she could pay him back the money. Before Liu arrived, she crushed 16 sleeping pills in total into powder and stuffed them into 2 capsules. Once he arrived, she convinced him to take the medicine by lying about it being Viagra. After he excitedly took it, he hastily passed out, and Hong seized his opportunity by grabbing hemp rope and strangled him to death. She rolled his body into a sheet and tied it down with ropes. She used the same method to call Lao Liu, lure him in, and do the same thing. Hong finished by disposing of the brothers' bodies in the family cellar. Dang. Hong had confessed. The police saw nothing wrong with her confession, and the brothers' bodies had been found, only the case wasn't over. The police felt something was odd, as the brothers had both died relatively recently, but that cellar was still rancid and filled with human feces, so I thought something else was hidden down there. They were right to think so. The officers searched the cellar to clear it out and possibly find more evidence, such as the murder weapon, but instead found a completely different human skeleton, fully skeletonized with no flesh or skin remaining. The skeleton belonged to a woman, and the police quickly collected DNA samples from the remains and compared them to families of any local missing person cases. The results quickly came back, and they identified her as Hong's sister-in-law. After being interrogated for 2 days straight, Hong finally broke and confessed her role in her death as well. Whoa, this just keeps going. Hong's background and life were understandably a large factor in these 2 murders. Hong was born in 1970 in Ning'an. She had a younger brother and sister, so her parents instructed her to do most of the household chores. In school, Hong studied medicine, and in 1986, she enrolled in Ning'an Health School and was assigned work as an intern at the Second People's Hospital after graduation. Her tenure at the hospital was a short one, as in 1990 she resigned in order to help Tsinghua village and opened a small clinic there. In 1994, she married her high school boyfriend. This was an unpopular decision and one criticized by her family, as she gave up a career for this wedding. Whoa, oh my gosh, there's still so much. After getting married, she moved into her husband's house in a different village. Their marriage wasn't meant to last long, as her husband was almost immediately cheating on her with other women. Hong wanted to divorce him, but her parents talked her out of it. In this rural village, divorce was heavily frowned upon, and it would likely ruin Hong's reputation and set her life back. Eventually, she fathered a child with her husband, and Hong had hoped the birth of their child would fix their relationship, but instead, he didn't seem to care and left all the parenting to Hong. Eventually, when Hong's daughter was 9 months old, her husband left the village to go work in the south of China. As he was the main provider and was now practically on the complete other side of China, Hong was left without a source of income, so she took her daughter and returned to Tsinghua village, where she opened up her clinic upon arrival. Hong's life didn't get any easier back home, since her siblings also left to go work in the south, meaning that Hong had to care for her parents. Her nieces and nephews, her own daughter, run the village clinic at the same time. The clinic was not enough to provide for this, as many families, so eventually she was forced to use a tractor, work on the farm, and do all the work normally delegated to the men of the village. In 2001, Hong learned from others that while working in southern China, her husband had started an affair with a local woman, moved in with her, and even got her pregnant. This was the final straw for Hong, who divorced her husband and began to fully settle into her home in the village. In February of 2003, Hong's sister returned home and sought out Hong and confided with her. Whoa. It was here where she confessed to another unknown murder. Her sister was married to Yan Bingtao and told her that she wanted to divorce Bingtao. The two had recently gotten into an argument over something trivial, and Bingtao had escalated the argument by hitting her and attacking her, with her rushing over to Hong's home not long after the beating. The next morning, Bingtao had been roaming the village looking for her and later found himself at Hong's home. Hong had her sister hide while she attempted to convince Bingtao to leave. After he refused to leave, the altercation broke out in this argument. Bingtao threatened to harm his and his wife's children if Hong didn't return her to him. Seeing him on the ground made Hong decide to rid the village of him completely, so she picked up a beer bottle and hit Bingtao across the temple with it. Bingtao began to bleed heavily and writhed, struggled and twitched on the ground for about 10 minutes before falling completely motionless. She quickly called her father to tell him what happened, and he arrived not long after. Her father didn't blame Hong and assured her that he would take care of the rest. Hong watched as her father dragged the body toward a nearby tractor, poured gasoline on it. He then covered the body with a pile of weeds, and Hong didn't see what happened next. To finish off the murder, Hong used Bingtao's mobile phone to send a text message to his family, explaining that he had left to go to work in the south and would not be returning until he made enough money. This convinced his family so much that even in the 7 years between his murders and Hong's confession, no one reported him missing. That's crazy. That's crazy. He's been gone for 7 years and no one reported him missing because she said he went to the south. That's absolutely wild. In November of 2005, Liu returned to the village after working in Ningbo in one of the provinces. The reunion started off poorly since Liu started off by asking to borrow 10,000 from Hong and got angry when she refused. Later that day, Hong heard from her mother that Liu was having an affair which was smearing. Is this the same person? Hold on. No, this is not Liu. Hold on. This is a new person. Is this her husband? Hold on. Oh no, this is Lee. This is Lee. This is her sister-in-law. Okay. Trust. We got this. Lee returned to the village after working in Ningbo. The reunion started off poorly when Lee started off by asking to borrow 10,000 won from Hong and got angry when she refused. Later that day, Hong heard from her mother that Lee was having an affair which was smearing the family name. The cheating in particular angered Hong greatly. She decided to act upon this anger once Lee went to sleep in her home. Hong got a piece of hemp rope and strangled Lee before disposing of her body in the cellar. Afterwards, she wrote a fake letter and snuck it in Lee's family home. The letter stated that she had left the village for work with someone else and not to look for her. Her affair was common knowledge and the talk of the town, so nobody was suspicious or even looked for her. To better hide the bodies and the smell, she would use a cellar to dispose of any garbage, dumping it in there and later shoveling up feces and dumping it in her cellar too. Hong's mother passed away in 2006 and her father in 2008, with his death resulting in location of Bingtao's remains being forever unknown. Hong likely would have never been caught if not for the Liu brothers actually having their disappearances properly investigated. Once the full story went public and was talked about in the news across China, many felt immense sympathy for Hong and were hoping she would get a lenient sentence, if any sentence at all. That's crazy! That's crazy! Okay. Hong, on the other hand, appeared to actually want the death penalty, telling the media that she'd rather die than walk free and have everyone look at her and know what she did. The only thing she wondered was, why do men always treat me like this? In January of 2011, Hong's prosecution began and she was quickly found guilty. Hong made no attempt to defend herself, confessed to her crimes, went out of her way to express no remorse, urging the court to sentence her to death as soon as possible. The only thing Hong was concerned about was what would happen to her children afterwards. The court granted Hong her wish and sentenced her to death. On February 10th, 2012, she was executed. That's crazy. Whoa, that's crazy. It's so interesting how much of a gray area this has. Like, it's so interesting. There's so much of like a gray area of like what she did was wrong, but like, was it really that? I mean, like, obviously it was wrong, don't get me wrong. But like, I don't know. It's very interesting. I don't know. It really shows you what the gray area is, and how it's just like, it's not easy to just find it, you know, like it's very interesting because she was obviously treated horribly, so in some aspects, like, I don't blame her. Like, she obviously like snapped, but like also like, no, I don't know. I think the killing of her sister-in-law for me is not excusable. The other ones maybe, because she, like, horrible things like either happened to her sister or her. So it's just like, I don't know. We'll have to see. This one's one of the ones I feel like you have to think about for a while to be like, you know? I don't know. There's a lot to think about with this case. There's a lot to think about with this case. This write-up was very good. I feel like we need to find a fun Reddit story to end this. Because all of this is sad. What's some, like, we need to find like a really dramatic, like, apartment roommate. I'm scrolling through the front page of Reddit and it says breast milk on the left side is blue. It is, guys, it is. I really need to find some, like, hello. Yeah, you came in at a very not great time. I read a few true crime stories, and now to end it, I feel like I need to read like a fun drama filled Reddit story. But I was I was scrolling through the front page of Reddit, and somebody showed a picture of two things of breast milk, and one was blue, and it was in fact blue. These are the times that I wish I had my Reddit on screen sometimes. Like, normally I try to put it on screen, but like right now I really wish I had it on screen because that was crazy. That was a crazy. I'm pretty sure this is a scammer. Oh, it was like a VTuber. I forgot that, like, sometimes I look for like VTubing advice on Reddit. What's like, okay, apartment living. Do we think apartment living is gonna have... We are not a legal sub. So if you go to r/apartment living, don't ask for legal advice. Oh, this one's just oh, is this long? No. Okay, wait, I need like bad roommates. We need to find bad roommates. What's like a bad roommates? Oh my god, I saw this one. I don't want to... That one's just like dumb. You know what? I'm gonna do Am I the Devil? Because bad roommates is just like people not knowing how to communicate with each other. Where is r/Am I the Devil? There it is. Okay. Okay, I have two. They're the newest one. We have two. Very true, very true. Yes, very true. Okay. Am I the because like sometimes bad roommates has like really interesting ones, but then sometimes bad roommates is just like, she told me to buy milk for myself and I don't want to, and it's just like what? This is not entertaining. Do not take this to Reddit. Do not take your drama to Reddit unless you are fully prepared for someone to read it. I never had a roommate. I've had roommates. Tangent time. I knew this was gonna happen. Roommates are really interesting because here's the thing, right? They can be wonderful. You can have great roommates. You could literally like have like the time of your life. You're living with your best friend. You can have that and then also like hate the person's guts, never speak to them, etc. And you can have that all within a year. And that's my favorite part of roommates is that, you know, it's like a sliding scale. I had issues with one of my roommates in college. It was both, like we both were not very nice to each other, but basically she had this boyfriend that sucked and I didn't like the boyfriend that sucked. And she like was obsessed with the boyfriend that sucked, as girls in college are. And she basically had him live at our house for 2 years straight, and he never paid like any electricity, rent, anything, which was fine because rent was split by like rooms. So like rent I didn't have a problem with. I was like, that's your room, like whatever you want to do with it, you can do with it. But what bothered me was like he was like using our electricity, he was using our water, he was using our heat, and it's just like ugh. She also loved to keep the house at like the hottest temperature possible, so that was crazy. But we were best friends before we had a falling out because of the boyfriend that she's not even dating anymore. And I think she sent me some very long texts like a while ago. What a freeloader. Yeah, come on man, like don't be a freeloader. I like it was awkward because I had a friend come stay with me for a month because they wanted some help and they were in the area and they just wanted a place to like live and not be alone. And I was like, yeah, like come sleep on my floor essentially. And I had them pay utilities, so it was very awkward, but whatever. Okay, oh wait, no, this isn't a long one. I need I need it to be a story, you know? No, that's not a story either. Oh, this is a story. Wait, no, that's not a story. That's not long enough. Okay, this one's a story. All right, we have a story. Okay, am I the asshole for trying to dance with my 52M daughter 28F at her wedding? So my daughter, who we'll call Jane, and I have always had a rocky relationship. I wasn't the greatest father, and I recognize that now, but I've changed. I know everyone's talked shit on the religion-based treatments, but I know that I'm saved now and no one can tell me different. That is a very interesting way to start. I don't think I like the way he started this. I was in a car accident where I lost a lot of feeling in my legs. After that, I swear I was reborn as a new man and promised I would do better, but after everyone else's reactions, I'm starting to feel like maybe I did do something wrong. I don't know how to feel about that. I don't know how to feel about that. He's born a new man, maybe? My daughter's wedding was this past weekend, and she had her brother walk her down the aisle, which was fine with me because, I mean, I wasn't really there for her as a kid, so why would I give her away? I found out from my wife slash her mom that she still planned on having a father-daughter dance at her reception, but have her father-in-law dance with her instead of me. I figured she didn't ask me because while I can't walk far, and I'm super unbalanced. So with the help of my wife, I worked on strengthening my legs in secret so I could surprise her at her wedding and dance with her. I have a feeling this is not gonna end well. Fast forward to the reception and they announce it's time for the dance. I roll my wheelchair to the edge of the group, circling her, stand up, and start walking towards her. Everyone in the room started talking and clapping around me as I made my way across the dance floor, and honestly, I was feeling really good until I made it about 6 feet away from her. She started shaking her head and frowning at me, but I kept walking anyways. She started shouting no and telling me to sit down, but I just couldn't believe that she was saying this, so I shouted back that I was coming to dance with her as her father. She acted all irritated and said she'd dance with me later, but now it's father-in-law's turn. I couldn't accept this, so I got closer and reached out for her hands, hoping she recognized I was doing this for her, when father-in-law reached out and blocked me by putting his hand on my chest. So then, this is where I might have screwed up. I told him to back off and back up and back off. Our argument got pretty heated for some people stepped in and separated us. She told me to leave, and I said if that's what you really want, and she said yes, so I did. I'm really struggling with this because I got a lot of dirty looks, and even my son yelled at me. He said it's really selfish for me to try to dance with her at all. I'm trying to do better and listen to my kids, so maybe you can tell me. AITA? Okay, I'm the asshole. I clearly have my work cut out for me here. I think I'll apologize to her, but I don't know what's the best way. So I'm wondering what he did in the past to like reborn. People are making fun of him for saying reborn. I'm just curious, like, what he did. Just because you said sorry to Jesus doesn't mean the hurt you caused. It's very interesting. I'm wondering what he did in their past that like screwed up their relationship. It's very interesting. Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. Like, I feel like if my father were to do that, first off, if I'm already like, if you were to, on your wedding day, if you were to plan to have your father-in-law dance with you for the father-daughter dance, I feel like something already had to have happened for her to have like chosen to do that. And then the fact that he like got up and tried to do it and she was like, nah, like clearly he had screwed up somewhere in the past. So I'm wondering what he did, because like there's a lot of information missing here. I don't know. It's very interesting. I'm very very curious about that. Something had to have happened in the past. Something definitely happened. I'm gonna turn my regular background music off. Yay! We got through some fun little some fun little cases. It's so fun. I think I want to make this kind of like a thing, so every once in a while, yeah, we do need a prequel. We need a prequel to what he did. So I guess every once in a while, I guess maybe I'll do some sort of like Reddit reading stream, whether it's, you know, true crime or AITA or Am I the Devil or Bad Roommate. Maybe I'll try to collect a bunch of Bad Roommates ones, because I think those are really funny when it's like actually like a bad roommate. But yeah, thank you guys for coming out to my true crime reading stream. If you couldn't catch all of it, the VOD will be up, so feel free. It's kind of like, I try to make it's like a podcast where you can listen to it if you want. But yeah, thank you guys for coming and listening to me talk about true crime. I've been loving true crime recently, so I think next time I will actually prepare a bunch of stories for you guys that I've recently really liked and hopefully aren't as popular, because I really enjoy some of like the not as popular ones. Although I feel like one day we're gonna have to deep dive the Zodiac Killer, because that one's just that one's crazy. I can't even, that one's crazy. But yeah, thank you for coming and supporting a niche little a niche little interest of mine, and I guess I will see you guys later.